bit of a what's up, guys. We're gonna be doing a bit of a calmer video than I have been doing. uh Hopefully a lot less controversy and anger in this video from the audience. But I just wanted to speak about the importance of a feature that I think a lot of the community underestimates and doesn't understand. I think a lot of people don't understand the importance, and that feature is the glorious skip button. Now, the skip button in a gacha game is like a it's like an automatic 5 out of 10 for a story, right? That's 5 points of a story in my opinion. The reason is because for people like me, this may not be the case for you, and that's fine. For people like me, the story in gacha games is so, like, they're so bad that I would prefer to skip the majority of what they have to show. I enjoy skipping side quests that are unvoiced and all of those kinds of things, and that is why, regardless of how people feel about Holyverse and its stories, I think HSR and Genshin Impact were unenjoyable experiences for me whenever a new patch came out. Honkai Star Rail has significantly more dialogue than I think even AAA games with a full-fledged story all at once. I think they can beat out dialogue for like Spider-Man, probably some Assassin's Creed games. They can beat out a lot of these, maybe even GTA at points. I mean, they do have a shit ton of dialogue, and while that would be fine if it was a visual novel, my personal opinion on this is that I think it's too much. I think for a video game, that isn't a visual novel. It's very important that you don't overload the person with dialogue every chance you get in order to pad out time. They do this to make it feel a lot longer than it is. If you take out all of the like excessive dialogue, these stories would take about an hour to finish. The Aventurine quest is a great example where it was literal hours of dialogue back to back. I think that's unacceptable. I understand some of you may like that. If it was a TV show, that would be fine, I suppose. As a video game, you guys have to understand what kind of games it's competing with. And now that the market has two very large games with skip buttons, I think it is imperative that they add this to Honkai Star Rail. For me, I hated Pinakoni. I really did. I really think Pinakoni was a horribly done story. The content of the story, don't care if you feel like it's good or not. However, the way it was told, I think, is inarguably horrible. Having a player sit down and listen to hours, and this is an exaggeration. You guys can go watch streams. If you were to sit down and listen to every bit of dialogue in these stories, it is hours and hours of just yapping, right? And the worst part about this with gacha games is whenever new story drops, usually that means a new banner is dropping. And that means you, for those of you that spend money, you just spent money on the game to get a new character. Those of you who saved up for a hype character or a character you really wanted, what you did is you summoned most likely right away. You got that character, hopefully, that weapon, hopefully. You probably pre-farmed for a lot of these characters, so you do that, you build them up. And then what happens is you get stuck in dialogue for 6+ hours of talking, with maybe one like super easy battle here and there, and then one final big boss. This completely destroys any hype for new characters right away in terms of like recency, right? So you have to wait several hours after pulling a character to even utilize them in anything. And honestly, it feels more like a task, and it's a task you have to complete to progress. This isn't optional. We're not talking about side quests, which should absolutely be skippable. I don't think any of you will disagree with any of this about it should be skippable for people who don't want it. But for those of you that will disagree, because I know there's always one, right? There's always going to be people that disagree with this kind of thing. For as bad as people trying to say the Wuthering Waves story was, significantly more enjoyable. I feel like the game is so much easier to go through because one, the combat's better, obviously, than any Hoyoverse game, in my opinion. I don't think it's even close. But two, you could also, if you don't want to skip main quests, you could at least skip side quests dialogue, which may seem small, but when you're padding out your empty open world with like really like fetchy side quests or like side quests that have you jumping around places, this is big. It cuts the time significantly. Unfortunately, clicking through in these games just does not work a lot of the time. It takes too long. It's not enjoyable for people like me, which I know there are other people like me. I think the skip button is very important to extend the longevity of these games and make me feel refreshed when a new patch comes out. I don't know how you guys feel about, but whenever HSR is close to releasing more story, I dread it because I know I have to sit through a shit ton of dialogue to get to any of the new content. I have to drudge through side quests in order to level up people like Harmony MC, and I don't enjoy the side quests. I think they're really boring. I don't think they have anything to offer a player. They're typically fetch quests or like give this to someone else or go talk to 5 NPCs about bullshit, and it's not enjoyable. I don't like that. I shouldn't have to talk to NPCs every time they release an event. I think that's really annoying. I don't think that that's gonna make the game enjoyable for anyone long term. People try to say Pinaconi is this amazing, great story. It's not. Okay, like the thing is, they always preface it with it's great for a gacha game, which actually means nothing. Most gacha games do allow either a skip button or they are very aware that their story is secondary to what everybody wants to do. This is like if you played Mortal Kombat and they dropped a 60-hour-long story on you, you'd probably be kind of pissed off and annoyed. Mortal Kombat story is fine, it's good, but it's not 60 hours worth of content good. So you really have to learn how to show and not tell in video games more so than any other media, because it is interactive. The player has to be engaged in order to want to play. The second the player starts falling asleep, you have a problem. I quite literally fell asleep midway through playing through Pinaconi. Granted, it was late, but this is something that happened. I've stayed up all night playing certain games. This was not one of them. I think overall Pinaconi's story would have been 10 times better if it was half or even 1/3 as long. And I think it would have been just fine. I think it would have been a really good story. I don't think dropping One Piece levels of episodes is how you let newer people get into a story either. I think it really alienates people. I think it really makes it hard for people to want to get into the story, especially if they've skipped like story beforehand. I don't get how you think people would enjoy going through that entire story when it is majority dialogue. But I think I've made my point on that pretty clear now. The importance of it is what we see with Zenless Zone Zero versus like HSR and stuff. A lot of people feel that HSR has a better story. To that, I say, bullshit. A bullshit. I can skip Zenless Zone Zero's dialogue. I can complete the story in a literal fraction of the time. I guarantee each patch I will complete the story within 2 hours if I want to. HSR, you don't have that option. If you dislike HSR's story, the entire game is going to be brutal for you, like it is for me. You guys aren't gonna change my opinion on the story, I'll be honest. This isn't to argue whether the story is good or not. It's really to argue about player accessibility and what you should do for your players as a whole, because there are multiple players. A skip button literally just is good for everyone, because the people who enjoy the story don't have to skip, and people who fucking hate it, like me, get the ability to skip. How do I feel about playing HSR? I literally dread playing that game now. I avoid it every chance I can. I don't play every day. I really... The thing is, it's one of those sunk cost fallacies, you know? Like, I've already spent so much time in the game that I can't just drop it, or I don't want to. But it is also very painful to hop in that game. There's just so much... There's too many fucking side quests. There's too much shit that really could be made shorter to increase my joy of playing the game. Because after a certain point, you just have a mountain of text that you dread going through so much that just kills your enjoyment of the game. I don't want to do any of these side quests. I really don't. I don't enjoy any of the side quests. I don't know if you guys do. I don't read the shit. I'm clicking through because I just don't care. I gave it a try, and the first 2 areas or first 3 areas, I didn't like it. I tried. I did. It's just not good to me. To make something clear, I do have a higher standard for storytelling than a lot of other people. It is what it is. I've played a lot of RPGs throughout my days. Gacha game or not, I'm going to hold games that make substantial amounts of money to the same standard. And that is because they have the ability to give equal or better story and animations and stuff like that. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. This game makes what shit like God of War, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, all the famous Sony exclusive story games. These games make more than those games make in their whole lifetime in like single banners. So when people try to tell me that, oh, it's a gacha game, they can't make the story good, I really question that. Like, why? Like, what is the reasoning? Because I feel like a 2-year-old or even a lot of you who are really into the story can probably write better than these writers. I think if Holyverse was good, they would fire these motherfuckers and throw them out on their ass. Personally, I think these writers may be extending it so they get paid more. I don't know how the pay works, but if I was a writer and I'm getting paid like hourly, for example, I might like fucking fill that shit with dialogue and make it unbearable for people on purpose. I'm just saying, just a conspiracy theory. Maybe that's why, but I don't know anyone who sits down and enjoys 6-hour breaks in between gaming. I remember that game Deus Ex or whatever, when that came out, people said it was just basically watching a movie. That is HSR, but like every patch, and it's like, if you're a new player trying to catch up, God, bro, I am so sorry about the fucking 25 hours of dialogue you have to sit through. This is like 90% of the game. Like, it's just really fucking brutal. I don't think you guys understand how much dialogue is actually in the game. Over time, it really is tiring. New players who don't enjoy that may just enjoy the combat system. They're really just getting fucked. They're getting fucked. I don't think it's fair to me. I don't think it's fair to players like me to be forced into this. And Holyverse has to understand that, because in Zenless Zone Zero, there's a skip button. Why is there not one for all of their other games? Wuthering Waves was able to go back and add even more skip options. So this is something that's possible from a developing standpoint. So the question becomes, is it due to laziness? Is their coding really bad and unmalleable? Or are they just like stupid? I'm gonna strike out the coding and stupid part. I guarantee it's laziness. And I think we should say something about it. I really hope they add a skip button. I don't know how many more patches of HSR have in me. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's so fucking hard. I don't enjoy it. When everybody's getting hype, like I want to be, I get hyped for new characters still that are cool to me. Like, that's fine. But most of these stories, I really, when everybody else is happy and celebrating, I'm really like, fuck, bro. Fuck, 6 hours. I have to put down 6 hours of my life of fucking just straight dialogue waterboarding. Like, that's such bad storytelling. That's not how you tell a game. And it's weird because you take a game like Persona 5, where the entire game is you like making bonds with people, and it somehow doesn't feel like you're just talking. The thing is, they pad it out with so many systems that it feels so fun. And the thing is, when you have choices that literally don't mean shit, the excessive dialogue doesn't mean anything. Like, none of the choices you make matter in the game. It won't change who lives, who dies, what happens in the story. It is actually just useless dialogue. And the way I feel about this is that take away the dialogue choices. Make it so that the game has an actual story mode, and let the characters just talk for themselves. If you're not going to give us choices that matter, why waste our time in selecting shit? Pay your fucking voice actor and have them just tell the story they want to, so they don't have to make it bold, like long and all this like extra bullshit. Don't do that. Tell your story. if a gacha game releases where choices actually matter, then that's where you may want more dialogue. If they have like a dating sim aspect or something, like any kind of fucking aspect to this shit, other than like the combat and talking, then we can talk about like how much time you can spend in conversation versus fighting. But there are no other systems at HSR when it comes to talking. There's no social system, there's no friendship system really. Nothing that matters. There's no you can't date Acheron or some shit, right? It's just dialogue, waterboard. Okay, we're friends now. And then dialogue, waterboard, final boss. It's brutal, bro. I don't have multiple patches of this shit in me. Either add a skip button or I might have to drop it after probably the fourth patch like cycle. It's hard, man. It's really hard. Again, it's fine if you have a different opinion. Feel free to share that and why you feel the way you do. The reasons I feel the way I do is simply that it's tiring to sit there and listen to story I don't care about, that I think is presented horribly because I get bored. It's not interesting. It's not fast-paced enough. I think what they really need to learn is what directors and shit do here in the US, where you cut stuff in the final product. It's like cutting scenes from a movie to lessen the bloat. You don't want the audience to sit there bored for extra hours just to pad out timing. You don't want to make a 4-hour-long movie of fucking nothing just so that people feel like they're getting their time's worth. Like, oh, it's such a great movie. Usually I hear for long movies, I hear that it was unnecessarily long 90% of the time. There's odd cases out like some superhero movies, but that's mostly action, which again is something we're missing in these stories. 1 or 2 cutscenes and 6 hours in like one easy fight and then one boss battle is not proportional enough. Again, just look at any like really famous first-person games, and you will see that that's just not the case. I don't think The Last of Us had that shit. Not for like 6 hours of no fucking action or anything. I don't think any of these AAA or like AA or indie games that are really famous do shit like that. And I think it's a good reason. If it was a choice-based single-player game, fine. Like Detroit Become Human, absolutely fine. The Walking Dead, absolutely fine. But again, this is a game where choices don't matter and they don't feel like they matter. So the excessive dialogue really does go to waste. But I think I'll end the video here. Let me know what you guys think. I think this is something the Hoyoverse needs to change for their games. They need to make it so that there's a skip button in every fucking game. Go back, update it, spend those billions of dollars you've taken from us and the kids in China, and then make your games better. All right, peace.